This is Trash Panda Publishing. Thank you for joining our podcast, where raccoons talk about books and publishing, and of course, anything related to raccoons. I'm David James, your host. We're so glad that you've joined us. Today, I am by myself. Lulu is... Well, I didn't ask her to record today because I wasn't certain I was going to record. I have a very small window of time before I've got to attend a class tonight, and we didn't schedule it. So, sorry, Lulu. We'll try to schedule one later this week. We're definitely going to record on Saturday. I have an idea for a new scene. Thanks for those of you who did reach out and give feedback. For those who are wondering, we did not have a script at all. In fact, I never use scripts for all these podcasts. I literally am just winging it. There's no double takes. I just do it, and I don't edit it at all. So, if you think it's great, then I'm impressed. Well, I'm happy because this is me in my improv form. If you think this stinks, then let me know. Maybe I will start editing, but it's all live. While I'm not broadcasting live, I am recording live with no editing. And when Lulu joined, we only talked through the segments. I said, well, we're going to introduce you, say hello, then we're going to talk about your book. Then you're going to sort of walk me through your book, and then we're going to do a scene. And the scene, basically, the only prompt I gave her was this. Ava's mad at Crimson, and I have to figure out through improv what it is. And then after a period of time, you're going to stomp off. And then I'm going to do a monologue, and then you're going to do a monologue, and then that's it. That was literally the only prompt we have. We didn't practice, and I am surprised it went as good as it did, and I think it went pretty good. Next time we're going to have, I think, a little bit more guidance where I'm going to sort of write up some bullets to say, all right, these are the points that you need to make as Ava, and these are the points I'm going to try to make as Crimson, so it's a little bit tighter. So thanks for the feedback that we received. But still, I was super impressed. Another person had suggested that I start marketing this, if you will, on, I guess, TikTok, because we have about 30 to 35 people listen to these episodes every time we put them out. It's pretty consistent. But I'm not doing any advertising. I'm not, other than posting the link in Facebook, I'm not boosting these links. And I'm not even pushing these out on, I don't think I put them on TikTok. Well, I know I don't put them on TikTok. Maybe they go on Instagram, but that would be, well, I don't think they do actually. So a marketing person who is pushing my book on as a bookstagrammer, which is an interesting term, she said, you have to start, she goes, these are pretty good. She goes, you have to start pushing these out, take a 15-minute or a 15-second segment, and start marketing. I said, well, we don't really have a big catalog, and these are kind of, we're just getting started. She goes, people will grow with you. They like to be in at the ground floor. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll do that. Today, we're only going to have a couple of things. One, we have some hustler emails. We haven't done that in a while, and we have one that's two today, and then I'm going to read a chapter from Mindy Mather's book called, and Mindy, I looked this up. There are two ways to pronounce your book, either Rock or Roche. I think you mean Roche Pride. So I'm going to call it Roche Pride. I could be totally wrong. I think that's what you meant. Roche Pride. It's spelled R-O-C-H-E, Pride. Okay, I just put the podcast on pause, and I went and messaged Mindy on Facebook. And hopefully she will message back before we get to that book, and then I will fix the title. Meanwhile, let's go to the hustler's email. So we have two today. One is, make certain I get these in the right order because I'm going to leave the funny one for the second one. So, we have one from, his name is Aboyai Kindle. And he must have emailed a long time ago, on Christmas actually. And, this is one of the guys where I wrote a long, long story to him, and then he never replied. It's been almost 8 and 10 days. He finally replied, and he says, I've been patiently waiting to hear back from you since the last time we had your store discussion together. I understand that you have many things running and maybe you have not had a chance to revisit your inbox fully. I am optimistic about unlocking your hidden store sales momentum. Can you kindly give a response to my previous message sent if you choose to reply? The wording is polite. We'll definitely give him that. Then I didn't reply. That was on January 3rd. January 9, which was, 4 days ago, he writes, hello, head. Hello, head, comma. Now, the reason it says hello, head is because my email is head raccoon. So I guess he thinks my name is head space raccoon, and head is my actual name and raccoon is my last name. So hello, head, comma. How was your day, my friend? Question mark, period. I got double punctuation there. I am reaching out one last time. Hello, head. I don't want to become a pest, but at the same time, I do feel there is a chance we can make a real deal to work on your store back-end errors. This is what he wrote. We can make a real deal work on your store back-end errors, limiting both sales and conversions with visibility blockers across major marketing sites. Most time I understand that messages could get buried or gets stuck in the spam folder. That's what it says. Gets stuck in the spam folder. Alternatively, you might be busy at the moment my messages arrived in your inbox. So put your input, please. Even if you needed more time to get back to me, I will cooperate with you while we move on with whatever matters for you now. All right, he won't be writing our press releases, but he is trying to be polite, so we'll give him that. I wrote today, I don't even understand what you're talking about. As a raccoon, I have a very small brain. What exactly would you do that my other raccoons are not going to do? Are you suggesting that you could do a better job of increasing sales than if we just asked Ava Honeysuckle to do a saucy photo shoot for our website, wearing all of our swag? I am, good sir, willing to buy anything and everything that she tells me to buy, and I think you would too. Sincerely, Crimson Jack Acorn III. So he hasn't replied, and I'm looking forward to hearing his response about whether he thinks whatever he can do to the website would drum up more sales than a saucy photo of Ava. I'm just curious, at what point do these people realize I'm just toying with them? I don't know. But it gets better. We had an email from a different person named Fiverr Rolex. Fiverr is a website for hiring independent contractors to do things. I've used them a lot for logos and things. In fact, some of my artwork that we use for like a Scala, and actually all of the art that we use in the store came from a Fiverr artist. So there are some very good artists on there. So I can't knock the website, but this guy's email address is Fiverr Rolex. And so he writes, I've never communicated with this person before, so this is a new email. This came on January 8th, so I didn't even notice this one. I have taken time to review your store, and it's clear you've already invested real effort into growing it. That commitment is commendable, even if the results haven't fully met your expectations yet. Welcome to the new year. This here is a strong opportunity to scale your business rather than give up. Success comes from staying committed, rebuilding strategically, and learning from what hasn't worked. And then he goes on to say he's a Shopify expert. Would you be interested in a free audit to identify your store's weaknesses? And he actually provides a phone number. And he has his name. His name is Vince, so it doesn't match his email address, but that's fine. I ignored it. He emailed again on the 9th that says, hello, I'm writing to see if you had a chance to review my previous message. I'm interested in working with you to develop an effective marketing strategy to improve your website's performance, especially with the holiday season approaching. And then he goes on to say he's confident that he can deliver results. So I'm thinking, I wrote back and I copied all my raccoons. Oh, I should do this as Crimson. Oh, we have another holiday season approaching. Well, tell me which one. I've taken the liberty of reviewing January to see which holidays are upcoming. And what I did is, so out of character, I went and Googled holidays in January and pasted them in an email. And lo and behold, there is holidays is probably a stretch, but there are national whatever you can think of days for every single day of January. I'm not going to read the list to you, but I took the liberty of sending it to him and highlighting one for each day and suggesting that maybe this is one he thinks could drum up sales. I'm going to read a few to you. Well, January 1, Ring a Bell Day. January 2, 55 miles an hour speed limit day. January 5, National Day of Dialogue. How about that? We can have a day of dialogue. January 6, Take a Poet to Lunch Day. Lulu is a poet. Did you take her to lunch? I didn't think so. How about January 7th, National Pass Gas Day? Probably not the one we want to celebrate. We have nothing in the store for that. January 8th, National Snuggle a Chicken Day. Well, I think chickens taste quite nice. January 9, Static Electricity Day. Nothing in our store, by the way, is static electricity. All of our clothing comes out of the dryer perfect, so we're not going to be celebrating that one at all. January 10, Peculiar People Day. Nope, that's not good for us either. How about this one? January 11, National Girl Hug a Boy Day. Ava, this is for you. I'm right here, and it was January 11th yesterday, so there's always time. Oh, you're not interested. Okay. January 12th, National Curried Chicken Day. Oh, well, I can see why we were hugging the chickens on the 8th. Snuggle up close and then throw them in the pot on the 12th. Good plan. January 13th, National Rubber Ducky Day. Rubber duckies, you probably want to run because look what happened to the chicken. January 14th, Dress Up Your Pet Day. Pets, you also probably want to run. Look what happened to the chicken. Let's see. January 16th, Appreciate a Dragon Day. Myrrh, you are the most beautiful dragon of all time. We appreciate you. If you read my book, you know what I'm talking about. January 17th, National Bootleggers Day. Not bootlicker. That's something totally different. That is something that this podcast will not cover. This is Bootleggers Day. All right. January 18th, Winnie the Pooh Day. Well, everyone loves Winnie the Pooh. He lives in Briarwood. In fact, I think I live here with him. January 19th, Brew a Potion Day. That's not a bad idea. January 20, National DJ Day. Disc jockey. Well, this podcast is run by a guy named DJ, so this is his day. Now, let's see what we got here. January 23rd, National Rhubarb Pie Day. Well, Mr. McGregor's garden has rhubarb. I think I'll bake a pie for Ava. I can't bake, but I'll get a rhubarb. This is a good plan. January 24th, Talk Like a Grizzled Prospector Day. Let me see if I can do this. Arr, there's going to be gold in those hills over there, isn't there? Arr. I guess that was more like a pirate, but he was grizzled, I'll give you that. January 26th, National Spouses Day. Ava, what do you say? We get married so we can celebrate this day. Well, in case hell freezes over, where should I meet you? January 27th, Speak Up and Succeed Day. This is a good day because, honestly, if you do not have dreams and if you don't enunciate them out loud, they're not going to become reality. I encourage all of you, tell people your dreams. Make them become reality. We should celebrate all this dream every day. January 29, Free Thinkers Day. I like this one. We should celebrate this on the website. Oh, look at this. January 30, Yodel for Your Neighbors. Let me see if I can do this now. Yodel. How is that? Do you think we could sell that on the store? We could put an MP3 file that triggers every time someone comes on there. What? Oh, no, not a good idea? Okay. January 31, International Zebra Day. National Speed Swap Day. Oh, sorry, No, we're not doing that. Scotch Tape Day. There's a lot of good days here. And I sent this list to him. These were actually highlighted. He replied. He said, He said, "Thank you for your feedback. The actual holiday I was referring to was Easter, period." Easter period or Easter period? I guess that's what he wrote. Not the period punctuation, but the word period. Easter period and then a period. I think he was trying to tell me, shut up, you're stupid. However, if you partake in the Easter season sales, you should have started solidifying your shop right now. I hope you understand what I meant. Do you have any other questions? Boy, he is lecturing us. Look at him. And he copied all of our raccoons. So my chief marketing raccoon and chief brand raccoon, what do you have to say to this? He is calling you out. He is saying that you don't know how to prepare for Easter period. And if we partake in Easter season sales, we should have solidified our shop. Well, I don't know what he means by solidify. I don't know what I'm going to say back to him, but something will be said back. So that's our communication with the hustlers today. And now we're going to have the Ava and Crimson show, except Ava is not in this particular episode. Welcome to the Crimson and Ava show, starring Crimson Jack Acorn III and Ava Honeysuckle. Tonight's scene, we find Crimson Jack Acorn encountering Dimitri Gorbachev. Well, Dimitri, I hear that you are trying to take Ava Honeysuckle to the Big Apple. It's none of your business what I am doing with Ava. Oh, I think it is my business. Ava is mine. Since when is she yours? She told me she hates your guts. Well, she's lying to you. Ava Honeysuckle never lies. She told me that you were a dirtbag and that you never wanted to even set foot in her part of the woods ever again. She told me to hit you with a sack of hot nickels. I don't think she said that at all. Look, I'm going to take her to the Big Apple and make her a big star. Well, why would you do that? Because she's beautiful. Well, I know that. And she's very smart. And I'm going to put her on the stage on Broadway and make a lot of money off of her. I'm going to be her agent. No, I don't think so. Where do you have connections to Broadway? Dimitri Gorbachev, how you say, has connections to very powerful people. People that give me sacks of hot nickels that I could hit people with like you. I don't think so. I'm quite clever and quite fast. I will stop this. I will make certain that Ava Honeysuckle knows that there's way better things in Briarwood than whatever's in the Big Apple. You are wrong. And you are also puny. I am not puny. I am a very powerful fox. No, you are puny. She told me so herself. Oh, she certainly did not. She did. In fact, she told me that you were stupid and you crossed the road to go over to Mr. McGregor's garden and get these stupid carrots to impress her. You know what kind of carrots I give her? What kind of carrots do you give her? The kind of carrots that go on her fingers and in her ears. They're diamonds. And because Dimitri Gorbachev knows how to win the girl's heart. Do you? Well, Crimson Jack Acorn knows how to win a girl's heart. He's clever and also very charming and witty, and he's got wonderful improv skills, and he can do two voices at once on the same podcast without even, voicing over any of them. You're lying. I certainly am not lying. You're making all of this up. In fact, Ava told me that you are a habitual liar, and you look at her tail. See, I told you right there. And in fact, I'm going to hit you with a sack of hot nickels now. You better run. How you Americans say run? Crimson Jack Acorn doesn't run. I'll just exit the scene with dignity. And you tell Ava Honeysuckle that I'm going to see her tomorrow and she's going to stay right here in Briarwoods. I don't think so. We'll be on the first train out of the Briarwoods tomorrow, and you'll never see her ever again. Well, that's not totally true. You'll see her on the poster on the highway, probably as you get run over by a truck. The poster will say, starring Ava Honeysuckle in some big show, and underneath it will say, produced by Dimitri Gorbachev, and we'll be laughing at you. Goodbye. See you later. And here's a sack of hot nickels for you. Whack! Well, that certainly was terrible. Look at him walk away. He's such a big shot. I'm going to have to do everything in my power to make certain that Ava Honeysuckle does not go to the Big Apple. What to do. Well, ladies and gentlemen, find out next time on the Crimson Ava Show what in the world can Crimson Jack Acorn do to stop Ava from falling for Dimitri Gorbachev's, I guess, persuasive arguments and all of his carrots. Find out next time on the Crimson and Ava Show. Well, now we are back to the regular programming. I hope you enjoy the Crimson Jack Acorn and Ava Show. Next time we will pick up and we will have Ava's side of that story, perhaps talking to Dimitri. I hope you guys enjoy that. I enjoy doing that a lot. In fact, I've actually toyed with having an entire podcast that simply is Crimson, but I also like to read chapters, so I think I have to commingle these together. All right, now we've come to the part of the show where we are going to read the chapter. So tonight, let me see if I got a message back from Mindy. She did not reply. So the choices, by the way, the name of her book is called Roche Pride or Roche Pride. It's spelled Roche Pride. I did Google it, and it is pronounced two different ways. It's like flipping a coin. I'm gonna make a 50-50 choice, and either Mindy will never talk to me ever again because I'm going to get it wrong, or she is going to talk to me again because I get it right. So looking at the names in the book, we have Stefania. There is another name in a different chapter, which I believe is an Italian coast, which to me, I believe, actually, you know what? Let's read this is like a mystery. The front cover of the book looks like a mafia don. He's wearing a suit, a fedora, he's smoking a cigar, and he looks like a crime boss. And Stefania is his wife. There's Maurice, Hecta, meanwhile, Amethyst, Neki, Stefania's younger cousin, wrestles with her own silent suffering in a loveless engagement to the ruthless Baylor Walsh in the Rock household. I think it's probably Rock. Even though this might be in Italy, Rock probably is the stronger of the two words, the Roche Pride. Maybe that just rolls off the tongue. So Mindy, I'm going to go with Rock. And if that is wrong and you're never going to talk to me again, I'm sorry, but I think that's what I'm going to go with. Rock. Okay. Let's go over who she is. Mindy Mather is an author, and I'm looking at her bio on Amazon. She says, "Hi, my name is Mindy M. Mather. I have always enjoyed writing ever since I was a little young girl. As I got older, I took to liking romance novels especially and decided that I wanted to write my own. My first novel was called A Tragic Miracle and actually started out as a Sims 2 series, the video game, that I made in 2008 and later decided to turn into a book. It was one of my best stories, and I've had many more that I've turned into the process of finishing. It took a few years away. I took a few years away from self-publishing, but I'm back and recently released 2 books that I wrote with my best friend, and that is Roche Pride and the Sons of Asphalt, which is book 2 of the Roche Pride series. A Tragic Miracle has also been completely refreshed from the story to the cover and was recently republished. I hope that all of you will enjoy my books. And if you're interested in my Sims 2 video, check me out on my YouTube channel. Her YouTube name is, and I'm going to put a link to her YouTube channel in the description here, but her name is TMP2. So let me count how many zeros this is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's TMP, the number 2, and then 5 zeros after that. TMP2, 5 zeros. I'll put a link, if I can find this, I'll put a link to her channel in the description. She also has a second YouTube channel called Triple M Productions. I'll have to check those out. So she has, on Amazon, she has a lot of books here that are tagged to her. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books. Some of them are out of print. Some of them look Two of them look like, well, actually, they're a series. I see this. A couple of them are series. And her most recent ones are all part of the Roche Pride series. We are reading from book 1 of Roche Pride series called Roche Pride. And so by the way, anyone who's submitting chapters to me, I don't read chapters that have curse words on the air, not heavy curse words. If there is like one curse word in there, I'll skip over it or I'll change the curse word. I just don't curse on the air. Plus, I don't read sex scenes on the air. She's totally appreciated that, and so she switched the chapter and had me read chapter 3. I did read chapter 2, and I have read some books that have like ridiculously graphic sexual scenes. Her chapter 2 didn't. There is a sex scene in there, but it's not like super graphic. But we're reading chapter 3. Okay, let's go back to what the actual back of the book says. So, Roche Pride is a gripping tale of power, deception, and fragile bonds that hold a family together. Levon Roche, the unyielding head of the powerful dynasty, fights to maintain control as the foundations of his world begin to crack. His wife Stefania harbors a devastating secret: her affair with Maurice Python Hecate, the true paternity of her youngest child, Alessio. Meanwhile, Amyphis Neki, Stefania's younger cousin, wrestles with her own silent suffering. Trapped in a loveless engagement to the ruthless Baylor Walsh, she finds solace in the Roche household, and even in her unspoken love for Levon. But as betrayals unfold and loyalties are tested, the question remains: can the Roche family survive the weight of their own pride, or will their legacy crumble under the burden of their darkest truths? A story of love, power, and resilience, Roche Pride explores the thin line between devotion and destruction, in a world where family is both a sanctuary and a battlefield. Well, that's quite an introduction. Makes me think of certainly a lot of good mafia movies, a little bit of Game of Thrones there. So with that, let me get chapter 2 open here. Chapter 3 is what we're reading. Here we go. Stefania sat at the edge of their lavish bed, the soft glow of the morning light filtering through the heavy curtains. The small, delicate box in her hand seemed to weigh more than anything she'd ever held. She had stared at the tiny positive test for what felt like an eternity, her thoughts spinning in every direction, but never finding a clear answer. A child. A baby. She was pregnant. The room felt suffocating now. Just a month ago, she had been on their honeymoon, a brief escape from the world that bound her to Levon, a moment when the heavy weight of duty had been momentarily lifted. They had traveled to places neither of them had ever been, sharing quiet dinners and awkward conversations, their interactions polite but distant. They had been quiet sort of intimacy, the kind forged from duty rather than desire. She'd known, of course, the children would come. It was inevitable. The Roche family was powerful, and their heirs were always required. But the reality of it, the suddenness of it, left her with a swirl of emotions that she hadn't expected. She wasn't sure how to feel. Was this a blessing? A burden? A symbol of a future she never asked for? Her gaze fell to the window, where the world outside was busy with its own daily rhythm, oblivious to the upheaval that was happening inside her. There was no joy in this moment, no excitement, only uncertainty. The door creaked open. Levon stepped into the room. He had always been quiet in the mornings, his presence heavy with the unspoken expectations that surrounded them. He paused when he saw her sitting there, holding the test. His eyes, dark and unreadable, flickered briefly with confusion, before they softened with a familiarity that made her heart twist. "Is something wrong?" he asked, his voice low and steady. He had the same controlled mannerisms that had defined him since the day they had met, as though every word was measured. Stefania hesitated. She had no script for this. The words she had rehearsed in her mind seemed to slip away as soon as she looked at him. She could feel the weight of his gaze on her, a pressure she had become accustomed to. They were both trapped in this arrangement, bound by duty. But there was something new now, something she hadn't anticipated. "I'm pregnant," she said simply, unable to muster anything else. The room seemed to grow even quieter at the declaration. Levon didn't move at first, his expression unreadable as he processed her words. His silence stretched for what felt like too long, and a knot tightened in her chest. His gaze dropped to the test she held, and then he looked at her, his eyes searching. "I see," he muttered, but there was no indication of what he truly felt. No reaction. Just the same quiet composure he wore like armor. Stefania's throat tightened as the realization hit her. Levon didn't seem surprised. He didn't seem anything. Was this what he expected? Was he glad? Or was he dreading this as much as she was? I don't know how you feel about this," she admitted, her voice shaky now, despite herself. "I wasn't expecting it. It's too soon, Levon." Levon finally sat beside her, his movements slow, deliberate. His eyes flickered over her, although he didn't touch her. There was a space between them, an invisible distance that had always been there. But now, with this news, it felt wider than ever. "I think—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I think we both knew the child would come. This was never going to just be us, Stefania." His voice was calm, but there was a tension beneath it, a subtle unease. "I know it's early, but this is part of the plan." Her stomach twisted at the words. The plan. She couldn't tell if he was referring to their marriage or their family legacy, or simply the next step in the unwritten script of their lives. "I don't know what I feel, Levon," she whispered, her voice thick with frustration. "It's just so much, and we don't even know each other, not really." He turned to face her, fully then, his eyes softening but still guarded. "I know this isn't what either of us wanted, not in the way we imagined it, but maybe this is the start of something different. We have a responsibility now, Stefania, to each other, to our families." Stefania looked at him, her gaze searching his face, but she didn't find any warmth there, only the same steadfast resolve. Responsibility. It was a word she had grown too familiar with in their brief time together. But could this be something more? Could this child be a bridge between them? Or would it be another weight that bound them together in silence? Levon reached out then, placing his hand gently over hers. The gesture was so small, so tentative, that it felt like a compromise. "We'll figure this out," he said quietly. "Together." The words, though comforting, didn't settle the storm inside her. She wasn't sure if together was something that could truly be, or if they were both just two players in a game neither had chosen. But for the moment, this was the reality that they had to face. A child. Their child. And with that reality came a new set of expectations, new stakes in a world that they had already demanded too much from them. Stefania closed her eyes for a brief moment, trying to summon a flicker of hope, a spark of something beyond duty. She didn't know what their future held, if it could be anything more than what had already been written for them. But for now, all she could do was hold on and wait. Levon leaned back in his chair, the smoke from his cigar curling up into the dim light of his office. His mind was a mix of conflicting thoughts, but for a moment, his focus drifted back to Amethyst. He had always been a man of duty, of calculating decisions, but something about that girl's rebellious, unfiltered nature had caught his attention. He had admired that she hadn't hidden her displeasure, even if it was a bit juvenile. It was strange to think that this little outburst from a child could distract him from the heavier weight of his own impending fatherhood. He had lived his life by expectation, and he would do so again with this child, This heir, he reminded himself. He would raise them with the same steely resolve and sense of responsibility that he had been raised with. But, as he exhaled a puff of smoke, he realized how little he actually knew about fatherhood beyond the legacy he was bound to continue. He thought of his child's future, a future that would be knit tightly with the Callahan and Rock names. It made him pause. He wasn't sure if he was prepared for the emotional side of it. The bond could form despite his initial reservations. But what if he could be more than just a provider? What if he could be a father in the true sense, not just someone fulfilling an inherited role? A chuckle escaped him as he thought about Amethyst again. The image of her storming down the aisle, flowers scattering with little care, made him wonder what kind of a person she would grow up to be. Could she, too, be caught between duty and desire like he was? He couldn't help but wonder if there was more to her rebellion than he noticed. He glanced at the clock, noting the time. Stefania was still asleep, and the quiet of the house felt almost oppressive. He took another drag of his cigar, and let the smoke linger. As he considered his life ahead, the pressures he had always faced suddenly seemed more complex. It wasn't just about the legacy or alliances anymore. It was about real, lasting relationships. And for the first time in a long time, Levon wondered if there was room for something else between the lines of duty. The morning sun cast a golden glow through the grand windows of Levon and Stefania's Rock's home. The house was pristine, yet cold, a reflection of its inhabitants, yet perfectly presented, yet distant. Amethyst Nexie stepped inside, her small frame carrying the weight of far more than the cleaning supplies in her hands. She had convinced her mother that helping Stefania with the house was a family duty, one she was honored to fulfill. In reality, it was her escape, a few hours of reprieve from her father's harsh rules and her mother's critical eyes. It was also her chance to be near Levon, the man she had once dreamed of for herself. "Good morning, Amethyst," Stefania greeted her from the kitchen, her tone polite, but distracted as she sipped her coffee. She was seated at the kitchen island, scrolling through her phone, her perfect nails clicking lightly against the screen. "Good morning," Amethyst replied, offering a small, nervous smile. She immediately set to work, gathering cleaning supplies and mentally mapping her tasks for the day. Stefania barely noticed her. Household chores were foreign to Stefania, who had grown up surrounded by maids and cooks. Amethyst took to the task naturally, her hands moving with practiced ease. Hours passed, and the house slowly came to life under Amethyst's care. By midday, Stefania had stepped out to run errands, leaving Amethyst alone in the house. She savored the silence, her mind free to wander as she cleaned. When she entered the master bedroom, her heart beat a little faster. This was Levon's space. Levon and Stefania's space. She swallowed the lump in her throat as she began dusting the dresser and tidying the nightstands. Her thoughts drifted to Levon, to his composed demeanor, his deep voice, and in her mind, he was everything she had ever wanted, but could never have. If she moved toward the trash bin by the bed, something small caught her eye. A plastic stick, its faint markings drawing her curiosity. She bent down and picked it up, drawing it over in her hands. Her breath caught in her throat, and she saw the results. 2 unmistakable lines. A positive pregnancy test. Amethyst's knees wobbled as she sank onto the edge of the bed, the stick still clutched in her trembling hands, tears welling in her eyes and spilling over, hot and unchecked. The sobs came suddenly, uncontrollably, as the weight of the unspoken feelings crashed over her. It wasn't fair. Levon was supposed to be hers, not Stefania's, not anyone else's. She had clung to this childish hope that she might see her and that she could somehow matter to him. But this shattered any lingering illusions. He was starting a family with Stefania, a family she would not be part of. Her tears fell onto the silk bedding, and she quickly wiped them away, panic creeping in. What if someone saw her like this? What if they found out that she had been snooping? She hurried back to her feet, placing the test back where she had found it, careful not to leave any traces of her breakdown. It was shaky breath. She glanced around the room, tears still stinging her eyes. She wasn't sure if she could keep coming back here, if her heart could handle the ache of being so close to Levon and yet so far from the life that she had once foolishly imagined. But she knew she would. For all her pain, for all her heartbreak, Amethyst couldn't stay away. Levon sat at the edge of his desk, his hands clasped tightly in front of him as he stared out the window of his office. The sky was a soft gray, the early morning light casting long shadows across the room. The noise of the estate felt distant, as if the chaos of his life were happening in another world altogether. Yet, in the silence, the weight of his obligations pressed down on him with increasing intensity. Amethyst's presence in their home had become a silent fixture. He couldn't ignore how she seemed to be drawn to them, her quiet need to help Stefania, to remain close, despite the emotional toll it was clearly taking on her. Levon wasn't blind to the way her eyes lingered on him, though he knew never to speak to her about it. It was a subtle thing, how she tried to remain out of view, how she masked her hurt by throwing herself into tasks Stefania could hardly be bothered with. But he knew better than to dismiss the undercurrent of tension. It was there, impossible to ignore. As for Stefania, the pregnancy had made her more reserved, more withdrawn into herself. He understood it in a way, the weight of a legacy she never truly asked for, the bond they were building not out of love, but out of duty. It was a difficult thing to carry, but she did so with grace. But Levon saw that the cracks, the moments that she faltered, when the realization of her role in all of this became too much to bear. And then there was Maurice, a thorn in his side. The audacity of that man was infuriating. But Levon knew he had to maintain his composure. He had to choose his battles carefully, especially now that his sister had brought new life into the family, giving their mother a renewed sense of pride. Two twin boys, Lucia and Luda, were both bright spots among the chaos, and Levon found himself drawn to the idea of fatherhood, though it still filled him with a sense of uncertainty. Levon clenched his jaw at the thought of the man, the memory of his confrontation at their wedding reception still fresh. Maurice's presence had been disruptive, yet Levon couldn't help but feel a sense of looming threat whenever the man came into the picture. The way Stefania's eyes lit up when she saw him, he could still see the flush on her face, the subtle shift in her demeanor. It irked him, like a constant gnawing at the back of his mind. But he knew better to let his emotions get the best of him. Not now, not when there was so much at stake. Levon stood, walked over to the window, his eyes scanning the grounds below. The estate was beautiful, everything he had been promised and more. Yet, despite the wealth, the power, and the alliances that were forging, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something missing, something beyond duty, beyond responsibility. His thoughts shifted to Amethyst. It was clear she was struggling. Her affection for him was a burden she was trying to carry in silence. He couldn't help but feel pity for her, but also a strange kind of guilt. He wasn't sure how to navigate her feelings, especially when he was already balancing his own responsibilities. Still, he couldn't ignore that she had become a fixture in their home, a constant reminder of the complexities of his world. And with a deep breath, Levon forced his mind back to the present. There was little time for contemplation now. His family was expanding, and the weight of leadership was calling. But, as much as he tried to push aside the undercurrents of emotion swirling around him, he knew one thing for certain. He had to be the man his family needed him to be. For them. For Stefania. For the child they were about to bring into this world. And yet, his fingers brushed the smooth surface of the desk. His thoughts brought back to the fleeting moments of the warmth he had shared with his bride, the quiet intimacy that seemed to grow between them despite everything. Could he truly find a way to connect with her, to build something real, even in the midst of all this pressure. And that ends chapter 2. This is a very good setup. This is a series, so I'm glad to see that I can see what's kind of setting up here. There is a love square. She kind of told us in the back of the book that there is an affair going on here, and I can see that the maid has feelings for Levon, and he may even have feelings for her, but he actually wants to preserve the family, so he's sounded like he is trying his best to have a relationship with his wife, but his wife is cold. And it sounded like, if he's to be believed, that his wife has something for Maurice, who is his arch rival. So you have kind of a love triangle square thing going on here. The question is whether Maurice has anything for Amethyst, which would be like a love X, the X symbol. Definitely romantic. And it makes me think of this movie called Dangerous Liaisons from the 80s. I don't know what time period this is set in. Well, actually I do, because the cover of the book, he's wearing a tie, smoking a cigar. I'm going to guess this is 40s or 50s, maybe 60s, although I could be wrong, could be older than that. But it's intriguing. And because it's Kindle Unlimited, there's no reason why you should not put it in your library and read it. It is also available in hardback and paperback, or you can actually just buy it as Kindle, of course. I'm going to put the links to all this stuff in the description of this podcast, and I'd ask that you support Mindy and go check it out. And of course, leave a review. All of us that are authors, reviews are gold, so please leave a review. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to Trash Can Publishing Podcasts. And like all raccoons, stay curious.